Welcome to Third and Wine. My name is Caitlin Brower, and I am your host of this lovely podcast. We are on episode 4. Oh my goodness, we are moving and grooving. I know I've been talking to you guys for literally 5.5 years at this point, but clearly we shifted. I always want to give a gentle reminder. I have shifted from the Real Football Fans of New Jersey over to Third and Wine, so you can find me at Third and Wine on all of your favorite outlets, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and all of your favorite podcast outlets as well, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, anything like that. So I'm so excited for episode 4 today. And as we continue this podcast series, because I am just bringing on like the best of the best when it comes to football, just content creators, personalities on social media. And I've been following this guy for 1 trillion years at this point. So I'm so excited that things came full circle. He's coming on the pod with me, so I won't waste any more time. My guest today is Clem. Clem, what is up? How are you doing? Thank you so much for being here.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Congrats on the show. Everything growing, doing well. So very excited to be here. Love the energy. Love the music and the countdown there that we get going on. It kind of got me in like the right state of mind. So thanks for having me, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So the countdown is great. Like I'm always like behind the scenes in the studio and I'm like bopping along. Yep. I'm like, all right. So get ready there. So I hope the audience obviously loves my countdown as well. But so yes, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Third and Wine. But I wanted to give you, an opportunity real quick just to introduce yourself to, my audience, let them know everything about Clem and even where to follow you and everything like that.
Yep, sure. So my name is Clem. You asked before, what do I call you? Do I call you Clem? I do a first and a last name. Whenever people like hear that I am not just like a creature named Clem, that I was hatched out of an egg and my parents just called me Clem, they get very upset. So we're just going to stick with Clem. I'm a writer, podcast. Content creator is the way to go. There's so much different things these days we all do, right? We're doing videos, we're doing audio, all that kind of stuff. Content creator at Barstool Sports. Mm-hmm. I've been there since 2014. And I cover everything. I cover NFL with obviously a real gear towards the Giants, but I love the NFL. It's my favorite sport to follow. I'm also a Mets guy because I'm one of the Mets, Giants, Gypsies. A lot of people say it's usually Giants, Yankees, Mets, Jets, right? Somehow when I was a kid, those are the 2 teams I chose. And I feel like part of me was like protecting myself. Being like, you're going to get a little bit of happiness in your sports life. Because I'm also a Knicks fan. So that's really not a lot of stuff. And then I do a lot of stuff on Barstool. I cover like a lot of the nerdy stuff we say, Star Wars, Marvel, all that kind of stuff, movies. On the My Mom's Basement podcast, I have a Mets podcast called We Gotta Believe. And then again, I do some writing and then just, I call myself a professional idiot. That's what I do for a living. I make a ass of myself on the internet for paychecks here and there. So I've been, so I'm lucky enough to be doing that here at Barstool.
I love it. I feel like you called yourself like 5 different things in that introduction, but I think they were all, you're a content creator, you're a professional idiot. Honestly, I love all of them, of course. So you obviously mentioned you obviously work for Barstool Sports. I'm truly intrigued, and I'm sure our audience is too. How did you get started? You said you started back in 2014. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I've been reading Barstool for a little while online, and to be honest with you, I had never even thought about getting into, at that point, it was just basically blogging. I mean, I had been on Twitter for 3 years, I think, at that point, and Twitter didn't even have like videos. I don't know if they even had pictures at that point. And it was one of those things that, so I was working at ESPN, but I was just doing kind of testing on websites and apps. So I was making sure everything looked good, making sure everything worked. Also, as a sports fan, I've been a sports fan my whole life, being like, all right, this could be something that better. You suggest improvements and stuff like that. And just, kind of get in the whole vibe and feel. So if there's any bugs, we find the bugs. If there's any way we can improve the product, we improve the product. And I was working with a bunch of awesome people who were all diehard sports fans. Well, my job was moving from New York to Connecticut to Bristol. They were moving my department there. And my wife, I don't think she was too keen on moving out there. And I wasn't really too keen on moving out there. The only problem is that I had a house that had 29 years left on its mortgage. And I had a wife that was pregnant. So basically, I was potentially going to lose my job. It's like out of a movie. It's like, kind of the crazy, like you're just rock bottom kind of things. You're like, what am I going to do? And I remember Dave Portnoy, the guy who created Barstool, he wrote a blog post and was like, if you want to work for Barstool, this is what you do. Write your own blog as if you work for us. And whenever, just like, do whatever you want to do, writing your own voice. And that's the one thing about Barstool. Dave always says he gives us creative freedom to kind of go and chase whatever we want, cover whatever we want, however we want to cover it. So I started my own blog, the Clem Report, as you can see with the name there. And I just started just blogging as if anytime I had any free time in between jobs. At that point, after I was done with ESPN, I was unemployed for a few months. Then I worked at my dad's pool store, and I kind of like caught odd jobs along the way just to kind of make ends meet. Again, pregnant wife, 29 years left on the mortgage, that kind of stuff. Scared to death inside.
Yeah.
And I said, I always compare it to, this kind of dates me, but it's a great movie. It's Private Parts, the Howard Stern movie. And there's a moment where he kind of just snaps and he goes from just like your regular DJ to just a guy who just tells it like it is. And I'm not comparing myself to Howard Stern, but I kind of like, you know what? When I used to like do like a blog post, I'd try it out, or I'd tweet. I would tweet just typical nonsensical sports fan takes, like we all do. Like it's just regular vanilla stuff is what I do. And then I started being like, you know what? That's not going to get me anywhere. You kind of have to stand out. So I would start like figuring out a way to get the idiot thoughts in my brains onto the keyboard and onto the internet. And I followed a lot of the guys at Barstool. I'd, tweet at them and stuff because I was fans of obviously the company and a lot of the bloggers there. And, I think throughout time, they saw that I was like blogging on my own and they see my tweets and whatever. And then in 2014, KFC, Kevin Clancy, who was like our New York writer at the time, he was like, hey, man, love the stuff you do. I have a show called KFC Radio. It was basically like the first real podcast at Barstool that had like a long-standing tenure at the network. He was like, I'm going to start my own site, kfcradio.com, and I want to take you on as kind of like, it'll be like a minor league for blogging. And I'll just, instead of writing on my site, I'll write on his site. And he's like, if there's anything good there, I'll take it, put it on Barstool. It'd be a way to kind of get your name out. And I was like, oh my God, like, let's rock and roll.
Yeah.
So he did that. I think that was like July of 2014. Him and his brother Brendan both kind of reached out to me and said I could do that. And they were kind of like my editors. And then October 2014, he was like, hey man, I love what you're doing. Listen, we have like, if you want to take it, it's a part-time job. It's no pay or anything, but you could be our Knicks blogger. And basically anytime something crazy or good happens to the Knicks, which a lot more crazy and bad than good, blog about it and just do your thing. And then he's like, on Saturdays, that's basically when, everyone's trying to get out, do some stuff. So if you see anything that's good out there, blog about it. And if it's good, I'll just throw it up on the site. Saturdays can kind of be your day as well as any Knicks stuff. So I kind of just took the opportunity and ran with it for about a year. I did that. And again, I had other jobs. I was actually, at one point I was working at USA Today and they were like for the sports, they had a sports app at the time. And my boss was like, we love Barstool as long as it's not during work hours, do whatever you want, which was very cool. So I kind of did that. Like whenever I found a minute and there was something that I saw was either going viral, I thought was good, I would write it. And if it went up, it went up. If not, no hard feelings. And then in November 2015, Kevin was like, hey, Dave Portnoy wants to reach out to you. He really likes the stuff you're doing. And at that point, I think it looked like we were going to get partially bought by the Churning Group, which was like our first big, it was our first big purchaser into Barstool. Yeah. And we're going to kind of blow this thing up and have a headquarters in the city and start actually, putting all these idiotic minds in their own little houses, bring them together and kind of see what happens. And he's like, I think that was kind of freed up some money. And he's like, you want to come on full time? And I was like, yes, 100%. I was like, I do it for free as I've been doing, but like I'd prefer to be paid and all that kind of stuff. So then 2015 got hired full time and kind of been there ever since. And it's just been a trip, a wild ride as I couldn't even have imagined.
Yeah. I honestly, I appreciate you sharing that story, and I appreciate, your candor and your transparency into things that, these things don't happen overnight. And I think it's the same thing too with online media, social and things like that. I loved your example of you were tweeting just kind of basic things and it wasn't picking up, that was something I learned early on. I've grown my Twitter following now, prior to the podcast. And I was like, at first just kind of like doing my own thing, like being a little like kind of skeptical about it. And then when it comes to football, I mean, like being a female talking about football sometimes can be a little aggressive. So I would like scale back and be like, maybe not. But then I was like, you know what? Like, F it. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and like just literally say what is on my mind. And like, it doesn't, like, I don't know what's channeling in here. Like you said, your idiot thoughts going in. I was channeling literally what was in this here. And that's what started picking up because people just like appreciate, I feel like, that authenticity sometimes. So, again, I really love your story and just kind of the transparency behind that. It just, it really picked up over, 365 days. And it took that long to kind of like fully get into it. But it's a great story. I honestly did not know any of those details, but I absolutely love it for sure.
Yeah, it's a trip just looking back. And I'm not going to lie to you. Like, there were some dark days, and my wife leaves the house, goes to work, comes back and is like, what are you doing? And actually, I left this part of the story out that I consider like a pretty big thing that kind of got the attention of everyone is I learned, I think it's called Adobe Flash. I learned how to do it because do you remember those soundboards back in the day where it would have like a list of words and you click on it, it would have like Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, who is your daddy and what does he do? And you could just like prank someone or you just laugh. I built one. I learned how to do Flash.
Wow.
Again, I am not a smart person, but it was just one of those things where I remember one day I was in the cubes working at my job and I'd see these guys there at 7 a.m. They were having watch parties for like USA versus Russia, a hockey game. I'm like, that's where I want to be. And that's what I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to get there. And I learned how to do this program. So then I can make a Mike Francesa soundboard, the sports pope, the New York sports radio god. And I made a Barstool soundboard as well from all different clips. I went through, hours upon hours of different clips and stuff. Took out the funniest lines. I mean, Mike has a treasure trove, and I got a good amount of them. And obviously the Barstool guys did too. And I built that. I even made like a light version. So in case you're, this was back in 2014, computers aren't what they are now, let alone phones. So then that kind of got my foot in the door, but like, I was just kind of freaking out and whatever. But, people kind of like the way I, some of the jokes I would make, the authenticity of it. Like Dave always says this. Authenticity always wins. And you can tell, especially these days, there's so many just kind of phony takes or whatever out there. And it does get lost in the sauce. But I think back then, I hate to say this, it sounds like such a nerd thing to say, but I do feel like Twitter was a special place back in 2014, 2013. I think the whole world lost its mind a little after then. And we are kind of seeing the brunt of it since, which we probably were going towards that path anyway. That's just, I feel like they're going to look at social media the way that we look at this. People in the future are going to look at this era of social media the way we could look at cigarette smokers in like the 60s when doctors were smoking with patients and they're smoking in airplanes. We're like, these guys were out of their minds.
Out of their mind.
What we're doing to our brains, I feel like, and I sound like an old man saying this as my daughter's like in the next room over, but it's like it does kind of rot your brain. So it's a little bit of it's hard work. It's definitely luck and timing and it's kind of just how it is. And there's a million people more talented than me that didn't get the break or didn't have the time to work out. And it just kind of worked out. So I'm here. I love it. And I'm happy I gave it a shot.
Well, let's pick those idiot thoughts of yours for a little bit here. So we've got some things that I want to talk about here. So obviously just like open discussion, like with the NFL that's going on right now. I think that the biggest topic out of today, is Lamar Jackson. So he did announce on Twitter that he actually requested a trade from the Ravens on March 2nd and did an open letter to fans today, basically just kind of spilling his guts. I'm 4 episodes into this new pod and it's every episode Lamar Jackson has been brought up. So I guess just kind of like, what is your take on where he is now, what the Ravens are pretty much not doing to keep him? Like,
it's unbelievable. It's crazy just seeing it all pan out. 26-year-old former MVP quarterback who is like, the center of that franchise, forget the offense, the franchise has kind of been built around him. But it's also like it's crazy when we talk about it all the time what baseball players get in terms of their deals and NBA players, and then football players sign these deals in like much more violent sports with much less shelf life, and none of this stuff is that not nearly as much guaranteed money for I know why the owners want it, but I know why the players don't want it. And obviously the way it all kind of shook out, where Deshaun Watson with the Browns is the thing that kind of got this whole thing going. He's like, you're giving that guy all that guaranteed money, and he has all those issues. And I'm Lamar Jackson. I won an MVP, and I don't have all this crazy off the field stuff like he does. So it's just, it is one of those things where free agency happened. It was a lot of craziness. Obviously, us Giants fans had like our wild ride in the beginning. And I was like, oh man, this Lamar thing, I feel like I was waiting for it to pick up steam. And then finally today, like those tweets came out. I'm like, here we go, baby. I mean, that's an old Twitter thing, the here we go Joker meme. That was a thing.
I do it all the time.
Because you just know the chaos is coming and the chaos is here. And it's so much more fun to do this from the outside looking in. Like we had the Odell stuff where we had to deal with that, where is he going to get traded, not get traded? Who is he mad at in the Giants organization? It's so nice to watch the chaos unfold. And I'm like, man, I hope, like, I'm like, which team do I want Lamar to sign the offer sheet with before I knew he requested the trade? And I'm like, oh, the Colts, that would be some diabolical stuff. Maybe he takes a Mayflower truck from Baltimore to Indianapolis, kind of reverse the Indianapolis, the Baltimore Colts leaving. So there's just a lot of crazy stuff about it. So I love it from the outside looking in. Are you kind of in the same boat?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I guess I just get confused, like you had said, or like I don't really understand like what Baltimore is attempting to do, or like anything, like, because even if he leaves, like who is your backup plan at this point? Because I referred to last season as like the year of the quarterback, because so many guys were doing well, whether it was a guy like Daniel Jones kind of reaching up and actually, achieving everything he needed to, or just other players. Like you see a guy like Matthew Stafford get hurt and then Baker Mayfield comes in. So it really was across the board. Like I literally deemed it like the year of the quarterback, but it also said that because we were going into free agency and we were having such an interesting free agency as well. And I just didn't think a guy like Lamar Jackson would have been a question mark. Like he, of course, is staying with Baltimore. So I'm a little bit confused. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I wouldn't be letting him run far, because even like the joke. I mean, like people have made moves already and they're making their decision. Yeah. Guys like good backups like Marcus Mariota have already signed with the Eagles. Like things are already falling into place. If nothing's going to happen. Like, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to go to Baltimore. Like that's not going to happen. So I don't know. My biggest recommendation at this point, I tweeted it out earlier. The Jets need to just halt all conversations with Green Bay and go all in on Lamar Jackson. That just needs to happen.
That would be incredible. And again, I have no ill will towards the Jets. I'd love to see, like, when the Jets are good, it's good for me, because there are times where you get stuck in a place and you don't have like the ticket or you don't have red zone. And CBS is the only, and the Jets are the only game on. And I don't want to watch like 13-10 games against like the Dolphins, like it used to be back in the day. I want the Jets to be good. So that would be fun. And, with Rodgers, you feel like you're getting a couple of years, even if it's a former MVP. It's a former MVP that is probably in his last couple of seasons. And he's a whole other set of issues, right? Whereas Lamar, it's like you're getting this guy 20, and like he's 26, and you hear these things. Well, he's had the injury issues, and what did Mortensen say? His sleep habits or something, and you're like, yeah, and he's Lamar Jackson. But then there's the other part of me that goes, out of all the NFL franchises, right? Baltimore is like in the top, I don't know, 3 in my mind, that when they do something, I'm like, that was a smart move. And I'm like, why are they allowing this to even get this far? I know the guaranteed money NC owners thing, where they don't want to be the next one to guarantee the contract, because then every quarterback's going to want,
exactly.
But it's like, if anyone deserves it other than Patrick Mahomes, I mean, it's probably, but then you're just going back. It's like, the long term of his style. He's already been hurt the last 2 seasons. It's a fascinating case study that I love watching. I cannot stress this enough. Yeah. From like 30,000 feet, being like, wow, Baltimore's burning right now, and that is not my Giants. We had our time to burn. I'm very happy it stopped burning.
I know. I've mentioned that over the last couple of weeks, and even on my prior podcast, and even just on Twitter, like, yes, like we've literally been burning for quite some time and had our burning moments. I am excited now to just watch other teams and see how their fan bases just crumble and all fight each other. And like one day everyone loves each other, and the next day they're all going after each other. So it is absolutely like just sitting back and watching it unfold for another team. it's a nice
the
feeling.
The fact he tweeted that right before Harbaugh went on stage and was
I
answering
know.
questions, I'm like, oh, that's incredible.
Oh my goodness.
Lamar doesn't need an agent. He's his own agent of chaos is what he is.
So I saw the chain of tweets, and then I actually did not even realize that fact. I think Adam Schefter had tweeted it out. Like, yes, this is coming seconds before Harbaugh. And I was like, oh my God. Like, no, like that is just perfect. But I mean, in that point though, Lamar Jackson does need an agent. So, I mean, he could definitely be chaos, like you just said. But at the end of the day, he's gotta get his shit together in that front.
Well, I will only say he needs an agent once the contract's signed. Because as of now, I'm like,
yeah,
he's gonna. And the question is, did he want to go back to Baltimore? And then if Baltimore truly in their heart didn't want him back, like, is it one of those things where in 5 years you're like, wow, but somehow Baltimore took the picks they got, or they have the contingency plan? I mean, I remember when everyone's like, why is Lamar Jackson falling in the draft? And then Baltimore goes up and gets him. You're like, oh, that's the exact kind of franchise that's going to nurture him and build the offense the right way around his unique set of skills. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Yeah, well, that's like the biggest thing going on right now. I took a look at the free agency tracker, and shout out to Fox Sports. They have like the best free agency tracker on the internet now. It is so detailed by hour, by team. Like, I love it. Nothing has really gone on this. I know it's only Monday, but nothing's really going on. But I think the funniest thing that came out today, and I saw you had tweeted about it a couple of times. I think you're actually writing a blog about it too, is the NFL, the coaches and the GMs meet up in Phoenix. So they do their annual picture together where everyone looks so uncomfortable. And the general man, I look at the general manager picture. I was like, who the hell are these people? Like, you're looking at them like, who is that guy? Who is that guy? Then you like zoom in and you're like, oh, it's like these pictures every year are so funny. They're like a fraternity picture, like on steroids, but like everyone looks so stupid. But so I did see, some of your tweets. So you are creating something around this?
No, that's Big Cat at Barstool. He's been doing this since, before I was even working at Barstool. He always would do the coach's picture, and he just hopefully it'll be up tonight. It's honestly, it might be my favorite piece of content we run every single year, and it just has jokes on every single person. Like you said, it's like a bunch of like just weird. Everyone's just so weird. They're uncomfortable. They're looking They're always looking directly into the sun, so everyone's squinting. They've never figured out to do it some other way.
Do it like inside, under a tent, like something.
Yep. And I'd love to see like one from 10 years ago to now, because I feel like Andy Reid is slowly is always drifting. Now he's in the middle. Him and Belichick are kind of the elder statesmen.
Yeah.
Andy Reid always has his like Hawaiian shirt on. And our guy Dable, he came out good. I got my Dable shirt on.
I love it.
Today. He's just sitting there. I said he looks like a New Jersey meatball. He has his sunglasses on. He's looking right into the sun's eyes. I don't care. I'm getting cooked right now on the top of my bald head. And he's rocking and rolling. I was just so proud after, the Mama Lukes we've had the last few years as the Giants coaches.
That's what I saw. And like, honestly, it was killing me, dying just seeing like all the responses today from it. And I was even just laughing at just some of the other coaches too. You're right. It's so uncomfortable. And then again, like seeing the older men kind of being pushed towards the center. I saw like Sean McVay, like he didn't even look like he was supposed to be there with his big ass aviators on. It like covered like all of his face. I just, honestly, it's something I look forward to year after year. And I love it because it's like, no one's like getting ready for it, but then it just pops up on your Twitter feed one day and you're like, oh yes, today's the day it came out. The picture came.
I'm so happy that they still do it. And like you said, it's like if Christmas morning you didn't know it was December 25th, it just pops out and you're like, oh, that's today. And you're like yes. And
hell
like you said, you just have these crazy, super competitive dudes who's alphaing who out of like their elbow room and the front row versus the back row, and then the GMs where the GMs look just like a bunch of just nerds, just like there's like five guys who look like normal humans. Everyone is just our guy Joe Shane looking handsome as a devil. I was so proud of him, just looking good. It's just one of those great moments that you're just like, man, I love being an NFL fan. I love being like a super low key nerdy NFL fan that gets off on this stuff.
I know. It was so great to see that today. So happy to talk to you about that for sure. So speaking of, you say nerdy and your nerdy takes. So earlier you said that, you do a bunch of stuff for Barstool, obviously, even your journey, you were writing and now, you're podcasting, you're tweeting, everything like that. So you truly are a content creator. So I'm curious, just kind of real quick, favorite thing to podcast about, favorite thing to blog about, and favorite thing to tweet about?
Okay, so let's see. Favorite sport to tweet about is probably, I feel like football, just because.
Yeah.
You know what? Like in the off season, it's football because I think everyone is football crazy. Again,
Right.
something like those pictures, and everyone is so football nuts as a country. That is it. But like the day to day grind for my teams, it might be baseball, which is the nerdiest of all sports, where you're
Yeah.
living and dying with 9 innings of 162 games, and you act like every pitch is the end of the season or the beginning of a World Series run. And it's, again, I'm a Mets fan, so Mets Twitter, I like to think, is different than basically the other 29 teams. We are sick in the head, we're neurotic, but like we're rightfully neurotic too, because everything bad that happens to the Mets like 90%. Edwin Diaz gets hurt in the World Baseball Classic. Oh, and he does it while celebrating a win. It's like, of course, that's the Mets closer who everyone wanted out of town a few years ago, and now became like our $100 million savior who actually made the 9th inning not full of boogeymen for once. So like during the season, I guess it's the Mets, but I also like have to rein it in sometimes because I'm like, there's a lot of people following me who don't care about the Mets. And I have to kind of I try to save my bullets for that one because I can only imagine what it's like to people who don't care about the Mets. So I think it is the Mets, but like for a lot of just nonsensical stuff, NFL stuff in general.
Yeah.
Favorite sport to blog about? I mean, I do have a soft spot in my heart for the Knicks because they were the ones that put me on.
Yeah.
I remember the Derek Fisher love triangle with Matt Barnes and Matt Barnes' ex-wife. That was like the first blog that I know that like really took off. I remember Dave Portnoy blogged about it the day after it happened, and I blogged about it the day it did happen. And he's like, Clem blogged this perfectly yesterday. And I was like, oh my God, like when you get kind of a, that's like Belichick saying, good coaching job there. I was kind of like taken aback by it all. And again, the Knicks always would give me no shortage of content. And it was almost always in like the most diabolically worst side of things. But it was like, it's when you're good, it's easy to write because everyone's happy and we're just writing all in caps locks and we're like, we're the best and we're going to kick everyone's ass. We're going to the Super Bowl. That's when you're good. When you're bad, though, you can just take pot shots. You can just, be grumpy about it. And everyone's kind of on the same page there. It's when you're just in like the middle, like maybe 4 seed to like 10 seed in your conference. That's where it's just kind of just no man's land. So the Knicks have given me a lot of that stuff at the bottom. So I would say the Knicks, oddly enough, is probably the best. But when the Giants were winning like this last season and then back in 2016, like the words just come out. It's just so easy and everyone's on the same page. Then podcasting. We don't have like an individual teams podcast. We threw something out there last year. A guy who produced my Mets podcast put it together a whole presentation. He never heard back, but I would love to do something Giants in the future. I had a parenting podcast that we're kind of put on hold for now. Again, I podcast the nerdy stuff with my guy Robbie. We do a lot of Marvel stuff, Star Wars. Then the Mets podcast, which is a ton of fun. Actually, you know what I'm going to say? We did it for 2 seasons and we'll keep doing it whenever the show comes back. But we did some Game of Thrones stuff. And we did the final season of Game of Thrones, which it's called Game of Stools was the name of our podcast. And we were out on it from episode 1 of the final season. And I was like, all right, give it a few more episodes. But a couple of my co-hosts were like, this is terrible. What are you talking about? And then I think once we couldn't see in the Battle of Winterfell, we're just like, all right, we're out. And people were trashing us. You go back to the reviews, like these guys are so negative. And now I feel like the Game of Thrones final season is like the gold standard for botching, a landing, like crashing the airplane. So, and then we did House of the Dragon, myself, Robbie, and KFC. And our guy, Nick Hamilton, who produced, who's awesome. And we would dress up every week, like different characters. I dressed up like George R. R. Martin. I call myself Clem R. R. Martin. Actually, let me see if I have this stuff in here.
That is so funny.
I don't have the thing in there. I got my Giants helmet here. I'll throw the Giants helmet
I love that.
a little bit.
Love it.
But yeah, so I'd say doing the Game of Thrones stuff, it's probably my favorite thing, the podcast, just because you can be silly. And I always love comparing pop culture stuff to sports stuff. And we're doing a lot of the comparisons and stuff like that there.
Yeah, well, I mean that makes total sense. My previous podcast, I did housewives and football, and it didn't always make sense, but there are so many crossovers with those two things. Like it was, oh my god! I remember we had Will Blackman from the Giants on our podcast one time, and he obviously played for the Giants, played in the NFL. He loves the Housewives franchise, all of them. And then him and his wife were actually approached to be on the Real Housewives of Orange County,
wow.
I think it was. So and then he also sells wine. So
he's a wine guy.
It was just like the biggest crossover ever, like one of the best. And I was like, some days it just it goes with each other. So the sports like comparison to other things, like I'm totally with you on that.
Yep. I remember Will Blackman, my only interaction with him on Twitter once, I said like, I forgot what player it was. I was like, Kadarius Toney would be faster wearing number 1 or something. And he got upset. He's like, this guy doesn't know ball. He wasn't in the trenches. And I wrote a whole blog. I'm like, listen, this is just fact. If our running back is wearing 22 or he's wearing 35, he's going to run faster wearing 22. It's just science. I'm not going to like argue with this about it online. It's just science. It's arguing science. With me. I won't argue wine. He knows his wine. I know my numbers as a fan who watches stuff on TV for his entire life. I was never on the field. Well, Will Blackman was out making plays and training.
Right.
I was sitting at home watching guys and numbers, and I could tell you all the numbers. Reggie Bush wearing 5. Once he got the 2 on that 5, that's what slowed him down in the NFL, and that little extra is what stopped him from becoming what he was at USC in the NFL. But I forgot to mention this one too. I had a MTV The Challenge podcast.
Oh, okay.
And it was called No Quitters, and it was an absolute blast. We would chat every Wednesday night right after the episode ended, and we'd live tweet it during it, and that was like some of the most fun I've ever had at Barstool. And then like we kept trying to get it picked up, never got picked up. We brought it back during the pandemic because we all were just home doing nothing. We're like, let's try it again. And they just never picked it up. I'm like, at some point, like we have to just put it on hiatus until these guys are at, because since I started when I first started Barstool, again, pregnant wife. Now I have 2 kids. I have all this other stuff. I'm an editor. I'm an assistant editor in chief here. So I have all these different things going on along with all the other professional idiot stuff I'm doing. But I'll tell you, like, it's kind of like the Real Housewives. The people are so absurd. It just makes it for you. And everyone wants to talk about it because I'm in my, like, you can't always be with your friends watching these shows. I remember when I was in college, we'd watch The Challenge together and just laugh for days.
Right. Yeah, they literally just hand you the content, like you said. They force feed it to you, like you have to talk about it. But oh my goodness, I'm happy you brought up the exchange between you and Will Blackman on Twitter, because the next question I do have is around Twitter and Giants Twitter in particular. So we are an interesting bunch. I must say though, I am very thankful for it. That is how you and I got connected. Obviously, I've been following you for a very long time, but that's how you came into my circle and followed me. So I'm very, very thankful for it, obviously. But Giants Twitter is an absolute shit show, in my opinion. And it's a shit show on like the best of days and the worst of days. I love live tweeting games. I love tapping into people's reactions prior and during. And even afterwards. I love right now. That's been the whirlwind of free agency with us. But it is absolutely crazy. But I would love your take on what we like to call Giants Twitter.
I like it more right now than I did a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's been a rough ride. Again, I've been doing this so long. I remember when Ben McAdoo was our, big dumb idiot who we loved, though, right? Because we were winning games and all that stuff. When I started, Coughlin was the coach, and then with McAdoo. But it got so bad for a while there, and I have Mets Twitter in my life. I have enough chaos as it is.
Yeah.
The Giants were kind of the good son for a little bit of that time. Again, when they made the playoff run, basically all the way until the boat picture, then all the wheels fell off. The house lit on fire, and everything was bad from there on out until our short king here, Brian Dable, saved us. But it's like, it was so annoying because you kind of have people that like people you enjoy following, but then you just have people who just always just be negative about everything. And listen,
they're still
and they still are. And if that's what you want to do,
I have like the list of people in my head. I've like 5 of them. So I won't call them out, but one episode I probably will fucking call people out.
Once enough wine's in you, once it goes fourth in wine, that's when you're gonna start lighting people up.
They're done. Those people are done.
But it's like that. Those we all know fans who are like that, fans who are super positive. I like to be, I'm definitely a more optimistic fan. Again, I've seen the other side. I'm a Knicks fan. I'm a Mets fan. I know this team is huge,
Yeah.
but like, there's no denying the last 4 or 5 years, whatever it was, were absolute hell.
It's been tough.
I think they were the second worst record in the league over that time, or maybe at some
Yeah.
point it was the worst. They didn't spend a day with a winning record from the boat picture until that win against Tennessee opening weekend. So I completely get the negativity, but it was just always negative. And like, again, it would just be such a drag, and it's like you're just muting people, or you're just unfollowing me. Like, I don't like, if I'm at a bar, which is how with Barstool Sports was built on.
Right.
This is how you and your buddies are talking at a bar. If I'm at a bar and there's just someone who's just harping on everything. Oh, I hate Daniel Jones, and I hate the Maras, and I hate Saquon. I can't believe he took him with the second pick, and the defense is this. At some point, I'm just going to get away from this guy.
Exactly.
What's the point of being a sports fan? And then if you can't be happy now, after you had the coach of the year, you had this crazy turnaround, easy schedule, granted, and there's a lot of like reasons to just get excited. And to be honest with you, I was really happy. I was so happy the way everything ended before the Eagles game, but the way everything went. Daniel Jones is getting an MVP chance. That's the other thing, is I decided when Daniel Jones got drafted, I was like, I can't believe Gettleman just did this. Gettleman really just turned all of us against ourselves. He is the real life Joker, right? Like, he made Gotham eat itself.
Yeah.
And when they drafted Jalen Jones, I was as shocked as everyone. I'm like, I thought he was going to go 7. We all had the thing. We thought we were going to get Josh Allen, the defensive end, at 6, Daniel Jones at 17. And it's like, we live with the quarterback who's a little questionable. And trust me, I lived through the Dave Brown years. I have no love in my heart for Duke quarterbacks. And they wore the same number in college. I was like, this is as bad an omen as there is. And I'm a big Juju guy. However, like, that night I like slept on it, and I'm like, this guy is going to have it hard enough dealing with the New York media and the fans. Like, why just be one other person? So I said, you know what? That's all out the window. The day after the draft, I said, I'm rooting for him. Daniel Jones is my guy. He's my quarterback, and I have to ride with him. And you know what's funny? A lot of people were against me. And then by the end of 2019, pretty much everyone was with me. They're like, other than the fumbles, we're looking good. This guy has it all put together. And so it was like, oh my God, you started seeing Giants Twitter come together. Then Jason Garrett came in, completely destroyed the offense. Daniel Jones, messed up himself a little bit. And then you had, Andrew Thomas was struggling for a little at first. And it's like, I just wish people could just be a little more patient with everything. But that's just, it's more of a social media thing, I think, or maybe the way the world works.
It's the instant, like, gratification. Like, and that's, unfortunately, it is social media, Clem, I have to agree with you on that. But I do think it is how football has shifted. And that's what, as a football fan, it really bothers me the most, because these quarterbacks aren't even, like, I think of, like, I'm a huge Alabama fan. Bryce Young hasn't even made it to the NFL yet. And he already has his list of what he needs to fix, who he's going to be like, everything like that. There is just this instant gratification that you need to meet. And I think it's hyper-focused on quarterbacks. And to me, it's just so shit, because you look at the best of the best quarterbacks that didn't fucking start their first day in the NFL. What would you have done to Tom Brady, friggin' Brett Favre, all these guys back in the day? You wouldn't have done shit to them. Like Aaron Rodgers, you wouldn't have done anything to them. You didn't speak about them. And now today, all these young guys step on the field, and it's just constant. It just, nothing is right. No one is good enough for anyone. Like, none of them. Like, I mean, Joe Burrow has had his days where people don't like him, Justin Herbert. Now we're looking at Lamar Jackson. It's just, no one is good enough for anybody. And
the other thing that's kind of broken people's brains is that Patrick Mahomes has come in and been a glitch of a player. So it's like, oh well, Patrick Mahomes. Like, well, Patrick Mahomes
one person
is one of a bazillion, basically. We may never see a run to start a career like we did just with him. I mean, Brady had to start once he got in, but like a lot of those, it was Belichick plus the defense. Brady got them there too. But Mahomes is winning MVPs from day one and putting up video game numbers. So it's those two things. And then obviously in terms for us, you're in the big market of New York. Daniel Jones is replacing Eli Manning, who I try to tell this to people. I swear to God, Eli Manning was about to get run out of New York if the 2007 season didn't end out the way it is. And even like those games, I think it was the Vikings he played a god-awful game against in 2007. I think there was a Washington game. We'll just say Washington. I remember the Cowboys game where they wore the red jerseys where Shockey got hurt. And there was just some games where and Eli Manning, it was like, all right, he could get him there. And it's like he was in his 4th season, and we're just, these players play 12 years, 15 years, and it's like you're just going to give up on a guy after 4 seasons. It's just crazy to me. So Jones is kind of, and he's had his mistakes. He's had his like meme moments, right? The tripping in Philadelphia, but he's also like,
I was there in person.
Oh God, how bad are the Eagles fans having to deal with them?
So my boyfriend's an Eagles fan, so it's a tough situation. But I got myself into the situation, so we're there. We'll deal with it. We started dating like during COVID, so both.
He must be a really good guy if you're gonna date an Eagles fan.
He is, and we put boundaries in place. So there's very much we have boundaries. It was funny because we started dating during COVID, and both teams were kind of just like meh, and I was like, we'll have to really cross some things when our teams are both good. And then this season happens, and I was like, this is the season. Fuck! No! So like really tested some times here. But like all is good. But so we actually ended up going to that game together. It was fine actually because it was COVID season. So there wasn't a lot of people. It was actually the first game Lincoln Financial opened up to the public. So we ended up going last minute. It was a Thursday night game, and it was a last minute decision. I would not go to Lincoln Financial fully filled. I will put that out there right now. So there was less than 50% capacity, and we actually sat in like a 2-seater, and then no one was around. Like that's how it was set up. So like that was really great. I just didn't do anything the entire time. I think like when he was running, I was like, yes. And then I was like, oh, fuck. Like, he trips and falls, and of course the whole stadium was just up in arms, and I was like, damn it. And then that was obviously the game Evan Ingram dropped that pass too, and I was like, this is just the worst. So after the game was pretty brutal, walking back to my car, just kind of left and right. But again, I put myself in that situation. You know what I mean? Like I have to deal with it. But it was to see that in person, I was just like, oh, fuck, Daniel. Like, come on. What are you doing to me?
I'm almost happy you didn't have to see like the memes on Twitter, the GIFs, all the like laughing, all the like mean stuff being tweeted at my little lamb, as I call him. And people forget they scored a touchdown that drive. So I like to say he wanted one of his teammates to score. That was just Daniel being Daniel.
He's not selfish.
He's a good guy, which that's like the one thing that makes me feel the best about him is the stats. He's had his moments, right? And there's stuff with obviously the athleticism, the running, and then like he does have like a great deep ball. He's getting better with like the progressions and stuff. I'm like, there's something there. But everything you read about the stuff you don't see, where it's like the behind the scenes, the leadership, the hard work, the guy is tens and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't say a word. Like he still has his old Duke picture and handle from when he was at Duke on social media. I love that.
I know.
I love my guys being complete robot nerds. And he's coming in after Eli, who is our beloved savior. But
for 16 seasons, like that's hard to people like forget that too. Like we had a quarterback for 16 seasons, never hurt, no injuries, played for us, obviously until fucking Ben McAdoo was an asshole, but like whatever. So people forget that too. Like, listen, if you want Daniel Jones for the long run for another 16 years, like everyone better like back it up and like shut up for a second here. Like let him mold into it.
Yep. And again, these are the people that were mad that the Giants didn't draft Josh Rosen, right? Everyone was mad we didn't draft Josh Rosen.
Here we are.
Everyone was mad we didn't draft Sam Darnold.
Here we are.
I don't want people to be like the other quarterback in Daniel's draft was they skipped on Dwayne Haskins. And it's like, I'm pretty happy. Like I would have chosen Daniel. I at the time. I'm not going to like act like I'm some expert. I root for the guys my team roots for. I'm not going to crush tape and be like, oh, this guy looks great in the old 22. I root for the guys I have, and I hope for the best. And I do feel like there's so much hot takeism where it's like people want to be right about their takes, or it's like just try to enjoy it, or don't. Like that's the other thing I'm learning with social media. You're not going to change anyone's opinion. Just let everyone, scream into the abyss. It's how everyone gets their anger out these days, I guess. But it's like I've learned to like put down the phone a little bit more and just enjoy it the way I do. So Giants. So going back to Giants Twitter, it was just so nice. That Colts game, that Vikings playoff win, just some of obviously the Titans game to start the season. It was so nice to see everyone kind of come together. And then the minute. Again, the guy who everyone was like, can't give him the 5th-year option, get Daniel Jones, he's gonna have to prove it. And then once he, proved it pretty well, all things considered, once the negotiations were at the last minute, I'm seeing all the tweets. Screw this guy! I never want to see him again. And I was like, I had like 5 tweets I was going to tweet out, kind of just snarky things. And I'm like, what's the point of it all? It's all going to the same place, into the garbage disposal of the internet. And it's just like, and you know what? Those people, if week 1, Daniel Jones throws for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, all those things that they were saying is just like, it never happened. So it's like, what's the point of it all? So my thoughts on Giants Twitter is, I just want us at the point where we're good every season and we could just be riding the highs and the lows together, and they won't be as low as it was, during hopefully the last 5 years. Probably won't be as high as 2007, which we weren't even all on Twitter for, but
I was not.
I'll take the middles. Yeah. Thank God.
I was young. I was very
young.
My
brain would be like, it would look like the after brain of like a lung after 50 years smoking. Basically, that's what my brain would look like if I was on Twitter for that long.
I don't even know if I was on it for 2012, to be honest. So I don't even know.
It's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah. All right, let's keep talking about the Giants. I know you mentioned some key things, over the past season or so. So I want to keep the momentum there. Full transparency, my computer is totally going to glitch in like 2 minutes, but if I like black out, you keep going, you deliver for the people. Okay.
Alrighty.
It's basically just going to do this quick relaunch thing, but I can already see it. I know it's coming, but you just keep going. Okay. You let the people, they want to hear you, not me tonight. So Giants 2022 season, what are your 3 main takeaways?
The offseason, 1, they believe in my guy Daniel Jones. And if you believe in Joe Shane and Brian Dable, you should believe in Daniel Jones, at least for the immediate future, not for maybe the long term. But clearly they said this guy is better than anyone we could get, realistically in the building. Number 2, they realized how awful their linebackers were. So that's why we upgraded that linebacker a little bit. And 3, they want fast. They don't care how small you are, receivers. And we got all those little slot guys. Obviously, Waller, I'm very excited about. Pretty much, I feel like every guy we have has like a huge injury question mark probably next to their name. But that's kind of, you're going to do where if you're bargain bin shopping, I mean, Waller, you got kind of for a discount as well. You got the Kadarius pick. Thank you, Kadarius. Thank you for beating the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I could be just Mr. Positivity. I feel like we're in the right direction, and I feel very good about. I'm just happy we could spend money too. So the Dave Gettleman can't hurt us as much anymore, even though there's still, Galladay's still in the books for a little bit and everything.
Yeah.
So those are my 3 takeaways: is that they believe in Daniel Jones. They knew how bad the linebackers were, still to be, I think, addressed. And then any size receiver, as long as you get separation, as they say, they'll take you.
Yeah. I mean, it builds up that wide receiver room. I said that last year, build it up, and then look what happened to us. We had to, I know, I was me. I totally threw that out there. I screwed all of us over. But just build it up 2 times more now at this point. Just build it up, go after. You saw what happened. But listen, you have a leader in Daniel Jones that can take whatever I guess is around him and try to move it forward. I am so with you on Joe Shane and Brian Dable. I trust them with my life. Like literally, if it came down to life and death, I would probably call the 2 of them at this point. Like they literally have all of my trust. So love your takeaways, of course. So we are moving obviously into the 2023 season, and the draft is right around the corner. And I know for me, this question, my answer has changed a little bit over the last couple of weeks with moves in free agency. But what are your current thoughts on the draft? Like with the Giants, who do you think we should be?
So who do we think we should be targeting is what she would be saying if she wasn't glitching right now. But I'm a professional. I know what to do. So who should we be targeting in 2023? Are there any players in mind? As I just said, I am a moron when it comes to basically all this stuff. I watch all the YouTube videos with the highlights and the fun music behind them, and that's kind of how I make my opinions on guys. But then I also just read all the people that actually do the tape work. So I think we were all going into the draft thinking, let's get receivers. If they at this point, it's just trust Shane, trust Dable, trust the process, borrow that from Philly, and I think there's a chance they go with a receiver if they truly feel like there's a number 1 there. I don't know if they do. I know JSN from basically just take the best Ohio State guy on the board seems to be a pretty good strategy that's working for anyone that did that. The best Ohio State or LSU guy has been a pretty good strategy for people. But I think they're going to go either linebacker or cornerback, just because I don't think there is a receiver. It's not like a receiver heavy draft where I don't think there's, and where they're picking, it's like a double whammy. So I think they're going to probably, and again, I've heard from people say this is a good cornerback draft, and you can never have enough cornerbacks. It's like starting pitchers in baseball. Just keep stacking them. They're going to get hurt. They're going to occasionally disappoint. So just keep stacking them until you can't stack them no more. Adoree probably has another year or two here, and then you don't know what's going to happen with him. Maybe they'll just keep having him return punts, see what happens there. That was a great idea. That drove me crazy immediately. That's the thing I think all Giants Twitter was united upon. We all were like, that's a terrible idea.
I'm pretty sure I literally tweeted like, why is he doing this? And he got her, and I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I think I just need to stop putting things into the atmosphere because it comes to full fruition. I'm just like, what the hell? Like you're right. That was a united moment amongst all of us.
Yep. So that was a good one. So, I mean, there's no players I have in mind. You could tell me, you could list 100 players, and you could honestly tell me that you could just make up names. I'm like, yeah, let's get that guy.
Yeah.
I'll watch his YouTube highlight reel. He'll look awesome because guess what? Everyone looks awesome highlight reels. Yeah. That's why they're highlight reels. Exactly. And we'll go from there. So, but for me, I do at one point I want at least one interior lineman. I'm going to have to believe that Evan Neal is going to become better. Andrew Thomas is locked in. I wish Nick Gates was playing center for us, but he's not. Bredesen, hopefully he can keep it up and doesn't get hurt, keep up the improvements we saw from him last year, but you still need to get interior linemen. Get my guy Daniel Jones again. We probably are tapped out at weapons for at least this season. Get the man a line, get the man as many weapons as he can, but you know what? Let Wink have some fun on that side of the ball. It's kind of amazing when you think back of how good that defense played with, I mean, bare bones kind of Dexter obviously played out of his mind, and you had Adoree when he was healthy is a good piece, but there were so many guys, and Kayvon turned it on to another level, but there was still so many pieces there that they needed. And I think if we can get Wink some real bad MFs on that side, I am very excited to see. I think this might be a hot take. I think the Giants defense can be top 10. I'm not going to say top 10. I'll say they could be top 5 if they hit the right picks. And, maybe by this year, definitely by next year, when it's all said and done, I think they could have a top 5 defense. And it's just oh my God, this is what it must have been like back in the 80s and 90s. I'd never want to say Lawrence Taylor's name like that, but we just have just a ferocious team that could just, scare the hell out of offense. I think that's what we can get.
I agree with you. And, my take on that, it might not be as hot as that, but I mean, listen, I definitely think I agree with you. It's definitely, you put it out there. I think transitioning from a defensive mind, from college to the NFL is a lot easier from an offensive perspective. So you're right. We can gain guys in the draft right now, and they can make impacts right away. Unfortunately, that transition, we've seen it with guys like Evan Neal, even like a wide receiver or running back position, that transition over to, professional over from college is a huge gap. And you can see it with so many players. Defensively, though, I do think college players have the upper hand. It's very quick transfer to transfer. And I think that, a lot of them do make impacts right away. So the Giants have great real estate in the draft right now. And I think they can go after, if they want to go after corners, like you just said, pull in some more. I think we can be scary. And I think we can go back to the days where no one wanted to mess with us. I remember when Jason Pierre-Paul was on the team, and I was just like, oh, hell yeah. We're entering every game. I don't care if we're winning or not. We are making a statement. We are making an impact in that game. And I think that's something that the Giants can definitely do moving forward with kind of where we're at right now and just kind of filling in the gaps that we need.
Yeah, because you have Dexter there. They're not letting him leave. No. You have Kayvon, who's not going to be on his rookie deal. I mean, Ojulari, I don't know if he's ever going to just stay healthy, but if he can, Leonard Williams for at least another year or two. We'll see what happens with his extension. But it's those 4 guys are just game wreckers right there, especially if everyone's healthy. And then you build up the linebacking core in the DB room, and you have McKinney and you have Adoree. It's it's so weird how it's we have really good talent, or we just had garbage talent last year. And it's we just upgrade that and we kind of make everything work. And again, you saw it with what's it called, the guy they signed from Minneapolis. We have speed. give Wink speed. I saw what Wink did in Baltimore, man. He made life a living hell for people. So get him his kind of corners, and he could just send the house. And if he is, the fact that we did this with the corners we had last year was amazing. And we all said it. Adoree is the one guy who can't get hurt, and they threw him back, and he was gone, and McKinney was gone, and they made it work with Love, and they made it work with Rowe, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah, we've got great names, like even the guys who literally just listed off there that were gone for a decent amount of time. But, we're going to get everyone back. We're going to be healthy. The guy we got from the Indianapolis is Bobby Okereke. I really like him.
I'm not even trying to say their name.
So I had to prep his name for my second episode because it just happened like that day or the day before. I just was constantly looking up YouTube clips, turning on ESPN on my TV, like knowing everyone was going to be talking about it. And then he actually took to Giants Twitter and like put out a video, and he said his full name, and I was like, this is the clip. And I just kept playing. So it's Okereke. So now I got it. It's like, well, listen, I've like the Giants we always have guys with like the craziest names. Yep. I am a huge
Mora.
Yep. Oh my God. Kiwanuka. So like always so many. And then I'm a huge, obviously Alabama fan. So Tua took me forever to get it. So I finally
Are we we're in the trust tree, right?
Yeah.
Of course, right? I still can't say this. I just say Tua. I don't even try. Is there an N in there? And it's like an N without an N.
It's a side. So it's Tua Tagovailoa. So I have it. His jersey's actually back up here.
Is it an invisible N? Like instead of a silent N, it's an invisible N, right?
There is no N. Yeah, but it's Tua Tagovailoa. So it took me a very long time, and I was such a fan of his too. And I was like, damn it, I can't even pronounce this kid. I love his last name. But I do. I literally took to the streets. I listened to people, and you finally get it right. So, but he's a hard one for sure. There's so many guys in the NFL that I've just said, like, you know what, I can't do it. But I
just say, like, I was gonna just call him like Bobby O, or okay, like just come up with a nickname just so then I can kind of go again. Tua. He's like a first name guy. It works out perfectly. That I can do. I almost need like Bobby O, or we'll workshop it.
I like Bobby O. Yeah, definitely can workshop it. All right. So thanks for your takes on the 2023 draft. And we are getting so close to it. So, I mean, again, I got to dive into, I'm very much in the same boat as you. Like someone could literally say right now, we should get this guy. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, shit, I should look into that. But my mind is shifting from position to position. So I'll probably have a solid look into things like 2 weeks out. So we'll definitely get there. But now is the time of the episode is my favorite segment, comes at the end. It is called Whine It Out. So I am giving you, Clem, this stage now to whine about, complain about anything you want to.
Okay. So I had like a whole like wine list thought out about like Twitter. I'm like, I think that's going to be a good chunk of our conversation, which I think I got a lot of it out.
You did.
I'm going to dabble in a little bit whining about how much I hate TikTok. Again, I'm an old man. Twitter is a big reason I got my job, and I love Twitter because of it. I've learned to hate Twitter because it's just so much I think anyone who's been on Twitter knows the digital hellscape it's become. Nonetheless, TikTok, I just hate how none of the numbers make sense. I just want to make a video. I don't want people to like it. And it's so much easier to get a tweet that I like on Twitter. I hate being old, which then kind of comes into my real one. I just hate getting old. I hate getting older. Everything hurts a little more. Everything you heard from a kid from your parents is the truest thing ever. I now know why my parents never like, I don't want to say never play with me as a kid, make it sound like I was like some orphan that was just left in the corner. Yeah, exactly. But like I now know when it was like, Dad, can we have a catch? And he just got home from like a day of work, or, just like on Saturday morning at 5 a.m. and I'm waking everybody up. It just, everything hurts more. You're just always tired. You're also like, am I dying right now? Like, don't go on a WebMD for anything. Like,
no,
you always end up with the worst diseases possible.
You're already dead. When you go to WebMD, you already died. It tells you died 5 minutes ago. Like you're done.
Yep, it's like the Oregon Trail. It just says you died of dysentery. You're cooked, man. I don't know what to tell you. And like even like the little things, I've noticed this in the last couple of months. I get like food stuck in my teeth now. I never got food stuck in my teeth like the first 38 years.
It's a random ailment, but
it is. And I said,
I'm sorry.
I feel like Larry David. I went to the dentist and I was like, listen, do people's like mouths shift? Because I was like, I get meat stuck in there now. I get broccoli stuck in there. And I'll be like, again, trust tree. I never really flossed when they told me to floss growing up, right?
I
Because
don't
everyone's
think,
like,
I
listen,
think everyone's probably listening to this now being like, yeah.
yeah.
I use a water flosser. I don't even use a real flosser.
That's incredible, and that's even more
No.
impressive, I think, than real floss. The
It's
fact you went out and
no.
bought a water flosser,
Amazon
water
for
pick.
like $10. No, it's not a water pick. It's like the off-brand from Amazon. It's not.
Okay.
And trust me, I gotta tell you, it's the easiest thing ever. Like when you're flossing, you're here for like an hour. This thing is like, whoop, like it's real quick. I'm probably doing it wrong. But like,
you have my attention. Like this sounds like something I could do. And now I am flossing now because I get food stuck in my teeth every single day. And I'll never forget this. My old dentist had a sign that says, "You don't have to floss your teeth, just the ones you want to keep." And it was like, oh my God, like, is it really that serious?
I don't know.
I was always so scared of it. But now it's like I have to floss, or else I'm just going to have stuff stuck on my teeth, which I'm going to either look like an idiot or at least more of an idiot than I already look like. And I'm going to just be like just trying to get it out of my tongue. So now it's like there's many parts about getting old that absolutely stink.
Yes.
Bills. I mean, I can just go on forever here, but like that is like the cherry on top is you just get stuff stuck in your teeth and it just is the absolute worst. So getting old. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the insight into getting old. I did not know the teeth thing was a thing. So I'm going to keep my, water flosser and probably invest maybe into the water pick now.
And you're going to DM me the link for this one. So
I will. 100%. I will. It might have been a little bit more than 20, but it wasn't expensive. I could definitely tell you that. It was not fair enough. I know the water pick's like over $100. This thing was not $100. I can guarantee you that. It definitely works though. But I laugh about the TikTok thing. So I'm actually not on TikTok. So I'm a social media professional. Like that is my trade by day. I'm not on TikTok, but my industry that I work for, it makes sense. But I do dabble in the reels on Instagram, obviously, because it's a thing. It takes me hours to do one reel. And when it comes out to like 5 seconds, I want to just lay down and kill myself, to be honest, because a tweet, it's out there. And I'm like, you know what? Goodbye, bon voyage. You're already there. Like, I can't do anything about it now. Like this reel that takes me an hour is 5 seconds long. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I can't justify it either. Like whatever the engagement is behind it, the time it does, but I guess you have to do these things to stay relevant sometimes, but it doesn't. I'd be lying if it said it didn't crush my soul. So,
and I'll let you know, I'm right there with you. Again, I've had like New Year's resolutions where I'm like, I'm going to go on Instagram. I never go on Instagram. I'm not even an Instagram guy, but I'm like, I have to get better at it. It's part of the work and the job and whatever. And that's one of my favorite things of the blogging is I could just put this ugly mug behind a computer and you're not like, it doesn't feel like you're as out there, right? When you're just writing or whatever. But when you're out there and you have to give your takes, it's like you do feel like you're out there more. And luckily I've found out we're not alone in this. I go through my phone by the end of a 5-second reel, 20-second reel, even an ad, right? And I go scroll my phone and it's just nothing but my dumb face 1,000 times because I like start and it's like, I say the first word wrong. And you just keep going back. And when you finally know, you're like, thank God I nailed it. So I'm with you. And my guy, KFC, he has a thing called 1 Minute Man that they do great numbers. And I'm like, man, those are so awesome. And he told me, he's like, dude, like I'm the same as you guys. Like I'm going through. He did a bloopers reel once, and it's just all the same kind of nonsense that we're doing. You drop it at the wrong time. You say a word. You're like, where did that even come from?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I'm with you on all that. And then when you throw it onto TikTok, which I took it off my phone, so I didn't want the Chinese government completely monitoring all my thoughts. They already have all my info, I'm sure. It's not a big deal. But it's just there's no rhyme or reason to anything, and I do feel like I'm probably a little behind the times now. So it's like, that's the old man in me coming out. So it's like Instagram, TikTok, all these reels. I'm with you 100% on all that. I hate it. And I just wish it was so much easier just to get those rockets that hit, the little K or maybe an M next to their number at some point.
Well, that's why I love doing things like this because it's quick, it's easy, it's authentic. I don't really care if I slip up on certain things. Clearly, my internet just went out before and it wasn't a big fucking deal. So I don't really care about that. But honestly, Clem, this was such an incredible episode. I truly appreciate you coming on Third and Wine with me. I learned so much about someone who clearly I've been following for a very long time. Loved hearing, everything about your backstory and just kind of where you're at today and your thoughts on things. So it was truly, truly a pleasure, and I really appreciate it.
No problem. Truly, thanks for having me. It was fun. Just kind of again, we all are living this crazy little world.
Yeah.
It's funny to hear how much, everyone's kind of going through the same stuff. And again, as Giants fans, it's fun that we're all going through this together and having a blast.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my audience following over here live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Again, if you are also listening live, you can listen later on the podcast on all of your favorite outlets. It's Third and Wine. And thank you guys, and I'll catch you on the next episode.